in a car travelling down a lonely country road. There's no one else in sight. It's dark. The sky lit only by stars. Suddenly, out of nowhere, brilliant lights are travelling with you. You can't see what they are, where they come from. You don't know what they mean. But they're there all right, bright and frightening, travelling through space right near you. You are under the spell of the legendary Min Min lights.
It was all really all too frightening to know. I just didn't know what to make of it.
I've accepted the fact that whatever it was did happen, but what it was, I can't come up with a scientific explanation for it. Simple as that. Weird.
A crisp, clear night in the Australian outback. Not a city, not a town. No habitation for hundreds of miles in any direction. The perfect time, the perfect place for the mischievous Min Min lights. They appear from nowhere. Dazzling lights that seem to dance in the night sky. Lights that seem to beckon, to lure the unwary, lead them toward danger, possibly even death. Then they just disappear, leaving their victims bewildered, questioning their sanity.
Some of the stories you hear from the olden days were enough literally to scare the pants off a lot of the jackaroos, etc., who literally said, I'm not staying here, and they've packed up their gear and their swag and all the rest of it and left the wages behind and just walked off the property. They were that scared of it.
Peter Craig is an experienced bushman. He spent most of his adult life guiding tours through the Australian outback. Along the way, he's learned the folklore of the land, the legends of the Aborigines. Few, though, have the fascination of the Min Min lights.
People have been chased by them. I've heard stories of station owners that have had literally thousands of them dancing around in the bush, you know, putting on a show for them while they sit there on their front veranda at the homestead.
Not all Peter Craig's stories of the Min Min lights are second-hand. There's one that involved him personally. One that could have cost the lives of more than a dozen people. Around 10 years ago, Peter was driving a group of adventurers through Central Australia.
If you can imagine, a night much like tonight, without a full moon, few stars around, and it's very dark. There's no reflected light from cities or towns, no street lighting, anything like that. I'd driven that road, if not once, it must have been 1,000 times. I could close my eyes and just follow the road. I knew the whole area, you know, like the back of my hand.
But no past experience, no local knowledge could prepare Peter Craig for what he was about to encounter, what was headed toward his coach at high speed.
I've got two lights like they're on high beam, really bright. And I was blinded. I couldn't see, and I'm just driving the road from memory. It was like a hallucination. And at the last moment, I just swung the wheel over. And as I did, the lights didn't move. They kept on coming, and we hit. And I hit them with the front of my vehicle, and as I did, they disappeared. They just vaporized. So I just stopped the vehicle, turned on the lights, looked up in the rear vision mirror, and I'm staring at a dozen or so faces going.
A shaken Peter Craig went to inspect the damage, but his van was fine, not a scratch. But then it dawned on him how close he and his passengers had come to disaster. Just a few feet more, and they'd have crashed over an embankment and into a tree.
And where that embankment was a whopping great big gum tree, and the lights had gone either side of the gum tree and straight at us.
Peter Craig and his passengers never found out what those lights were, where they came from. They certainly weren't from any other vehicle. No car on Earth could have passed through the tree. The only explanation, the mysterious, magical Min Min lights. Gwen Houston is an inveterate traveller. Her wanderlust has taken her to some of the far-flung corners of Australia. In those desolate outposts, she's fossicked for gems which she uses in her distinctive artwork. And on one such trek, she too saw the Min Min lights. Not on a lonely bush road, but from the veranda of a friend's house, deep in the northern rainforests. Again, it was a dark, clear night.
I was woken in a fright with a light, and it was shining right there on me. I really got a fright because it was so intense in on me, and then it started moving around the room. And I thought, oh, what's it want? What's it looking for? What do you want? What do you want? And it was just like a full moon, and the whole countryside was lit up. I could see the treetops and the fence and the mountain. Anyway, then it started to back away. And I thought, oh my goodness. And then it seemed to float. It's almost as though a child had it on a string, and it floated away and went behind a big mountain.
A moon-shaped light in the sky, bright as day. Still stunned, Gwen lay awake that night, searching for a logical explanation.
And as soon as it comes daylight, I got up and went and had a look at the calendar to see if it was full moon. But no, it was 2 days after new moon. So I still don't know what it is. And that's, oh, weird. It was weird.
Cliff Donahue grew up in the outback. These days, he runs a Western-style store in town. But his heart is firmly planted in the bush of his childhood, around a settlement called Min Min. Min Min, where the lights are most prevalent, where they got their name.
My old dad would tell you the stories how they'd go along with their wagonettes, they'd pull up for the night, light a big fire, water their horses, and then take them out to feed. And then they had the fire to come back to. And he'd often tell you how night after night they'd go to come back and discover they were lost because they'd be following the Min Min light instead of following the fire. All they could do was stop, lie down and sleep in the bush all night, then get up next morning and get their directions.
Cliff Donahue is certain he's been fooled by the Min Min lights many times over many years. Always they've appeared in front of his car, like a single light on high beam, dancing in the night sky, turning when he's turned, stopping when he's stopped. As for an answer to the Min Min riddle, Cliff too is stumped. Though he does remember his old dad speculating the lights could be birds with phosphorescent wings.
But all I can say, it's a pretty fast bird because I drove flat out for 28 miles before it decided to do a right turn and just leave us. Lots of people say it's followed them. I have never struck it following. It could have been following me, I wouldn't know, but I've never looked back ever to find if it was following. I've never put the lights out to see if it disappeared when I put the lights out because I never had the guts. I was always too frightened.
Since the turn of the century, scores of sightings have been officially recorded in outback Australia, from the tip of the far north to the red centre. Bushmen and scientists have tried to unravel the mystery. Their theories range from those phosphorescent birds through to light reflection or refraction. But that's all they are, theories.
A lot of them say it's fireflies that gather together late at night. Well, around that area there's no fireflies. They say that it could be gas. There is no gas in that country. They've drilled for oil there. They can't get any traces of gas or anything in it. Other people will tell you that they've found that it's a reflection from lights away to the east. I don't accept that it's a reflection. You know, if I had to make a wild stab, I'd say outer space, but from there it's just one of those great mysteries that exist, and it still remains there unsolved.